Hey guys, welcome back to Buzzer2Buzzer. Alright guys, so today we have a very special Buzzer2Buzzer episode which we are bringing to you. It has been weeks in the development and we have finally able to get it done. We are bringing in one of the most renowned voices in the NFL industry. Let's see who it is and let's talk some football. Alrighty guys, join me in welcoming NFL insider, NFL analyst, fantasy guru, the man from our hometown of Chicago, Illinois, Mr. Adam Rank. Adam, thank you so much for coming on the show. It truly means miles and galaxies to us. Can you take a moment just to talk about what you do, where you're coming from, and how you doing?
Oh my gosh, thank you so much. No, I appreciate being on with you guys. I'm very flattered. It's so weird, before to pull back the curtain a little bit, is that, we talk a little bit before the show starts, and it's really, honestly, it's flattering that people consider, like they think it's a big deal, and I appreciate that. But I am somebody who, a lot like you guys, who my whole life I've dedicated to just wanting to do what we do, and do our thing. And, I grew up loving wrestling and comedy and sports, and I wanted to kind of go into anything that was similar to that. And I've been very fortunate to, when I was in college, I think the smartest thing I ever did was when I was in college, we got an opportunity to cover high school football games for the LA Times, which at the time, it doesn't seem glamorous to go out to a Bolsa Grande high school game, but it paid $50, which for a college kid's not bad money. But it also gave me an opportunity because eventually when I interviewed for my internship with NFL Publishing, the guy doing the hiring was a former LA Times managing editor, and he was a former Rams beat writer and stuff like that. So my whole interview was just talking about the LA Times. So I always tell people, take every opportunity or everything you can, anything that'll, even if you're not getting paid, do whatever you can. Try to meet as many people as possible. And so I've been fortunate over the years to go from NFL Publishing, did some work covering Las Vegas and restaurant development, and eventually going to the NFL Media Group, where, as luck would have it, fantasy was starting to become a huge thing. And they were looking, they needed somebody to help out. We had a one-person fantasy crew at the time. And they're like, they made a deal with me. They said, if you'll edit everything that comes through the fantasy desk, then you can write and do some other things. And then I started doing on-demand videos. Now we're doing a daily show. Now I'm involved in meetings now, talking to salespeople, trying to make this year-round. Fantasy was a thing September, December, then they don't see us anymore. And now it's August is already booked up, starting to drift in July. And now my boss, she was talking about wanting to do weekly shows, which, not everybody wants to do that. But I'm like, you know what? I kind of love what I do. So it's not too whatever, ask me to do whatever. So that's the long version. That was a very short question. And that was a very long answer that nobody wanted to hear. But I will sit there and I have more of these. I got a full bag of these stories to bore you with, but I appreciate you guys reaching out to me, and it's fun to be here.
Well, no, for sure, the honor is all ours, and those stories in the future we'll have to have back on. It seems like you got quite the vault. But on this topic, of fantasy, I think it'd be a good question to ask you. Last year went by. How many leagues did you win, and how many did you participate in?
Oh, this is the most disappointing question because I play in a ton of leagues, and I did pretty well. I did pretty well. So I'm still working with the chords here. I did really well. I made it to 6 Super Bowls, 6 championships. And you figure, you're like, I'll win a couple. I didn't win a single one. I went 0 for 6. It was so bad. It was so disheartening. And it got to the point, the last one, I play with these kids in the UK and they're fun. And I've never won this league. I'm the only American who's in this league. And so they were so pissed that they were going to have to send the trophy to the United States. And I was so ready. I was going to play it up, and I had the Apollo Creed gear from Rocky IV, which is a movie you've probably never heard of, but it was very important to my childhood. But anyways, I was ready for this celebration, and we were in a standard league. And I'm like, as long as Stephon Diggs doesn't score 30 points, I will win this. Okay, it didn't work. It did. That was 0 for 6. It was awful. And I made the playoffs like in a ton of leagues, but I think last year was kind of interesting because with so many injuries and so many big name players going down, I had Christian I got the number 1 pick in so many leagues. It was weird. And you know what I'm talking about? Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and I did, like, you do such a great job. Like, it was such a grind going out. And I know Antonio Gibson was somebody that we probably drafted, but finding like Jeff Wilson, like starting Jeff Wilson Jr., Savon Ahmed, Giovanni Bernard, who I'm trying to think of like some of the randos we were just picking up. Like, it was such a grind and it was so fulfilling to get there and to get to the championship. And eventually your luck just runs out. And trying to pick the right play. I started Jalen Hurts in a league when I shouldn't have. So stupid. Can I tell you this? I'm sorry. Again, I'm launching into stories you didn't ask to hear.
We love it. Keep on. Yeah.
It's the second city league, so I can kind of commiserate with you guys. So I had in my rankings that week 16, I had Jalen Hurts number 1, and I had Tom Brady as number 2. So for most people, I was advocating. I was on Fantasy Bites with Kim Checks, advocate Tom Brady. And I'm into this thing, and I'm like, but I kind of like, how the scoring works sometimes. You know how your scoring is. So I'm like, I'm gonna go with Jalen Hurts, which wouldn't have been bad if they wouldn't have had that bogus fumble, or Younghoe Koo had not missed the field, whatever. But like that was oh my God, if I just would have started Brady or something like that. I'm almost upset now that I have to relive this. I'd finally moved past it. I was over it. Now I'm reliving the wounds again. But yeah, it was a weird. How did you guys do? How are your leagues?
Up Stefan Diggs. I had a tragic story of my own. I was in the championship, maybe down by 40 points, and he gets like somewhere around 39.5, and they pull him out of the game early in the fourth quarter on that last drive, and I ended up losing. And one of my, not with these guys, but in differently. It was horrible. I had no hope going into Monday night. I was like, no way Stefan gets this, and
he teased you.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was your friend. He's like, hey, I might have an extra ticket to the Super Bowl. I'll let you know. Hey, I think it's going to... Oh, wait, no, it's not working out. That's the worst.
And then like you, in the league with all of us and a few of our buddies, I ended up losing the championship game in that one, too, to another one of our friends. So, it was a rough 0-2 year for me, too.
Which one of you four? Who's the best? Who's the ringer here?
Well, I consider myself the best. This last year didn't end up working out because I drafted Dak Prescott, which
that's a good pick.
Oh no, I know it's a great pick, but he got injured. Saquon also got injured. I had Cortland Sutton. He got injured. It was
my gosh.
I ended up being eighth in the last place, but I still think 2 years ago I won the league, so I think I'm still the best.
I love it. You guys, did you say there's 8 people in the league?
Yeah, 8.
Yeah, we usually
people.
Usually 8. Yeah.
I hate when people, whenever you tell somebody like I'm in an 8-team league and people are like, oh, that's got to be so easy. I will tell you, I think it's tougher because everybody's team is great and the margin of error, you have to pick the right guys every week, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the waiver wire gets intense, because there's like 2 guys available that everyone wants. And
yeah.
Or, Adam, you're talking about Christian McCaffrey, our boy AB right here. I think he was hurt the most. I'll even tell him about what happened.
Yeah,
I saw space.
My team wasn't as unlike Arian's team, he had all injuries, right? I just had Christian McCaffrey, but I think that was a huge blow because then my running back switched up, and then every week I didn't have Christian McCaffrey usually brings around because we did half PPR league, so Christian McCaffrey usually brings around 20, 25 points every single week.
Oh yeah.
Those are the times when I needed running back the most, and even I was in the quarterfinals, and then I lost then too, so that kind of hurt my team.
I wonder if we lost too.
Oh, there it is. There it is. It's so funny, but it is so true to have that guy that every week that you can count on. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, we're like, I hope Josh Jacobs goes off this week or anybody. There's outside of a handful of guys, you're always wishing. But with CMC, it's every week, it's automatic. Yeah. That's 25 points you got baked right in.
Yep.
Well, I got a bit lucky, Adam. So this year, ESPN, we played on ESPN. Initially, ESPN.
How dare you? Interview over.
Oh,
and you do one, dude, you got to do the NFL fantasy. Listen, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt your story, but let me just do a quick plug. The NFL Fantasy app, which is getting a lot better. I know if you played it a couple of years ago, wasn't awesome. It's getting so much better, and you get to see my face all the time, which might not be the selling point. But anyways, I'm sorry. Please proceed.
Well, definitely, we're looking at NFL fantasy since we've had you on the show. Sponsorship coming through. Who knows?
Yeah, if you get Stephen A. Smith, or if you get anybody else, I was just trying to think of Max Kellerman. Yeah. If Molly Karam Rose comes on this show, fine. You guys can play ESPN all you want. Well, Scott Van Pelt comes on, you play on the ESPN app. But until that time, you got to switch to NFL.
All right, well, we'll do that. But, I was talking about, I was ranked 8th initially. ESPN got me projected. I took Pat Mahomes first. I was a bit too much hyped on the quarterback coming from last year. So I got him for 8th, right? I took Derrick Henry on my running back, and I got one of my buddies. I traded, Derrick Henry, Michael Pittman or something like that, for Alvin Kamara. And when Michael Thomas went down that whole season, he ended up regretting that Alvin Kamara trade. And a lot of opinions were changed. So for sure, it was a fun.
That's a good move.
Yeah.
So Adam, I have a couple questions for you, just in terms of fantasy. If you could go more into how you guys do research and when that process takes place, because obviously I know throughout the season you guys do a lot of work, but in the off season, is there a lot of work still to do?
There is, and a lot of it's dependent on what happens to these teams, and what you want to do, especially for fantasy, is keep an eye on what happens on the offensive line. Who has an offensive line that changes or anything like that. And you want to also take a chance to kind of project of what we think is going to happen. I think it's something that my friend Bob Harris likes to say all the time, is that when you're drafting a team, don't always draft last year's best team. You want to be looking forward to the future, and you want to look at guys who could take that step up. And I think that's probably one of the biggest things that I'm always looking for. Who's going to make the leap? Who's going to step up? Who's going to go forward? And a lot of it starts with just trying to see how guys finished last season. And you look at somebody like Jonathan Taylor, who finished the year very well. And you look at his offensive line. The Colts have one of the best offensive lines in football. They got Carson Wentz, which I know it's going to be a polarizing move for a lot of people. We don't know if that's going to be good or bad. I tend to think that Carson Wentz, given protection, is going to be similar to the guy that we saw in 2017 and not so much the guy that we saw in 2020. So we just want to start looking forward, and it's starting to keep an eye out for it, because obviously free agency is going to happen. The draft's going to happen. One of the things that helps me out is that once the season is over, I start doing some writing for the original content team. And one of the things that they asked me to do, I get to do a mock draft, one with DJ and Bucky Brooks and Chad and Lance and all those guys. So I get to do one too. So I get to kind of look and see who needs what, who's got free agents, who's moving around. So we just try to project forward. And I think that's the biggest key. And then it's something that's always going on. I know we joked about before we started the recording, I wanted to check out for a little bit, but they just don't let you. And it's something you like watching or following anyways. So it's not really work, but yeah, you always want to be up to date and always make sure that you know what's going on with these teams. Is somebody getting older? Is a team getting healthy? If somebody had a problem, was it because of injuries? Was it, and so just trying to look at all those factors and to figure out how it happened last year and how that could change moving forward.
All right. Thank you for those tips. I'm sure our viewers and ourselves will be looking forward to applying them. But, on the topic of Carson Wentz, we saw a couple of weeks ago that great blockbuster trade go down. The Eagles franchise quarterback who went down this season, Jalen Hurts, coming in, but he's gone to the Indianapolis Colts for a third-round pick and a conditional second, which could become a first. Now, we know that Carson Wentz going to the Colts finished second in the AFC South last year. They got bounced out in the first round in the divisional, although that was a bit heartbreaking, lost by 3 points, I believe it was. But now Carson Wentz coming to a different team. The whole line situation is different. He got T.Y. Hilton, the rookie, Michael Pittman Jr., who's not willing to give up his number. Interesting fact. That's what interesting. But we just want to hear your general thoughts. What do you think of the Colts? You got them coming out of the AFC South. Are they going to take over the Titans? What's going down?
What happened? How do you feel if you're the quarterback and a player doesn't give up his number? And I like Michael Pittman. I think he's a good player. I remember him playing at USC. I remember his dad when he was in the NFL. You're not giving, it's one thing, there's a certain level of prestige. Tom Brady goes to Tampa Bay. Chris Godwin, who is a pretty good established player, quickly gave up that number. Now, there was probably some money exchange, but still, He was like, yeah, I got you. But Carson Wentz, like Michael Pittman, a second-year player's like, nope, dog, I'm gonna keep 11. Sorry, but I know you might have been an MVP candidate in 2017. I think even more than watching Nick Foles win the Super Bowl MVP, I think that had to be tougher. Like that has to be a tougher pill to swallow. Like you think that you've hit rock bottom. Like you got traded. You're like, oh, life sucks. But then the guy who you're supposed to be throwing the ball to disrespects you by not giving up his number. Like, nah, I love number 11. Like, really? I don't know. Hopefully that doesn't cause any friction with them, because I really do believe, like I was touching on a moment ago, that this is going to be pretty good for Carson Wentz. I didn't necessarily want him to come to the Bears, number one, because I didn't want them to. What was being rumored with first round picks and stuff, you're like, no, dude, we can't do that. But, you know, when you saw the Colts give up, you're like, I don't even know. Like, that seemed fair. But at the same time, I think that he goes into a better situation in Indianapolis because of the offensive line. That's going to give him an opportunity. I think that with the players that they have there, Jonathan Taylor, who I think very highly of, as a matter of fact, I have him as my RB2 right now heading into next season. I know we want to talk about that here in a moment, but I think this is a great situation all around. I know that I know everybody made the big to-do about Frank Reich and they worked together in Philadelphia, but I think that offensive line is going to be the key thing. And to me, I would look at the Colts as probably the favorite to win the AFC South. I know that the Tennessee Titans have made the playoffs in back-to-back years, and their fans hate me, which is fine. But I think that they've kind of walked the high wire a little bit. Like, they've had a lot of good breaks go their way, and I think the Colts are ready. And I think defensively, they're probably a little bit better as well. So I think the Colts are set up for next season.
Well, you got to take us back. What's going on with the Titans? You got some rivalry going on here? Some shade being thrown?
Oh, they're the worst. Like their fans are they're always looking to be like egregied, like somebody like we're trying to disrespect them or whatever. A couple of years ago, I didn't think they were going to be very good, and it kind of was like starting to work out because I'm like, you guys are going to be lucky to win 5 games. I think it might have even been 3 or whatever. And their fans were all over me. Then they started off 2-4, and all their fans disappeared. A couple of them even apologized. They're like, we're wrong. You were right. Blah, blah, blah. We might win more. I'm like, I don't know. You'll probably win a couple of games. But Ryan Tannehill comes in to be the starting quarterback. He goes on an amazing run, which was great. Like, okay, yeah, I'm sorry that I didn't predict that this guy who flamed out in Miami was going to show up and be the second coming of Joe Montana all of a sudden. Like, that was one that I missed. But then their fans were so obnoxious about it. And then last year, you know, so they just kept it up. So they come after me. They come after Colleen. And it's like, gosh, like, God. And Colleen has been really cool about like trying not to like fan the flames. And then I come out there and I'm just like, I got a bucket of gasoline with me. Like, nope, there we're dousing it. Like, let's inflame. Let's get this going. So we have a little bit of fun back and forth. I think they're probably like, listen, there's fringe people who take it a little too far, but that's why the mute function on Twitter has been developed. So it's all good.
Nice. Well, you know, we've talked about Carson Wentz. There was some potential for him to come to the Bears, but let's talk about something else now.
All right, so obviously we know you're a big Bears fan, and most of us here, except to be, are all diehard Chicago Bears fans. You know, we obviously had our own thoughts on the Carson Wentz, but what do you think the Bears should do this offseason? Obviously, they missed out on Carson Wentz. You know, there's some rumors about other quarterbacks. Do you think they should go free agency, trade up in the draft, or even trade for a star quarterback like Deshaun Watson?
Yeah, I wish there was a possibility to get Deshaun Watson. I honestly still don't believe that he's going to be moved. I think that eventually when we go into 2021, he's going to be the quarterback of the Houston Texans. I think when you look at the Texans situation, Bears fans can commiserate because forever the Texans have always tried to solve their quarterback position. Now, they drafted David Carr with their first ever pick, which was great. I think David could have been an exceptional NFL quarterback, but they didn't protect him. Like, nobody got hit more than David Carr. And I always joke with him because I'm friends with him. I'm like, dude, if you would have gone to the Bears, and you were our quarterback of those 2000 Lovie Smith teams, we would have won at least 2 Super Bowl. Like, no doubt in my mind. And it's funny, like, how he's nice and he's like, he placates me and goes, yeah, it would have been awesome. I mean, it sucks. Like, it's just so tough because so much of it is the team that you go to and the circumstances surrounding it. And they never protected him. So we never got to see him really ascend to be as good as he was going to be. Because I watched him. I remember him playing at Fresno State. He was an excellent quarterback. So the Texans have never gotten it correct. And Matt Schaub had a couple of nice years. And even now, they still don't protect Deshaun Watson. But he still makes the most of it and is still pretty good. And I think they realize what they have. And it would be foolish to give that up just because his feelings are hurt right now. I mean, all you got to do is tell him, look, we're going to draft a lineman. We're going to sign one of these free agent wide receivers, maybe Allen Robinson, or sign and trade with Allen Robinson or something, whatever. We're going to surround you with talent. It's going to be fine. We're going to move forward. And then Deshaun Watson stays in Houston for the next 15 years. So I think for the Bears, the situation, it's troubling because they're so, like, we're good. So we finished with these draft choices that are like 20th overall. And the time that we did finish third, we took our shot at a quarterback. It didn't work out. A lot of, like, if you look at the quarterbacks, like, think of all the quarterbacks who are being traded right now with Carson Wentz, Jared Goff, all these guys moving teams. Like, the quarterbacks are moving around. Nobody's really hitting on the quarterbacks outside of Patrick Mahomes, Deshaun Watson, 2 quarterbacks the Bears could have had. But anyways, like, there's a lot of misses. So I think what the Bears should do right now, because the team is still really competitive, and I do believe that somebody like Marcus Mariota could come in here and start. I don't think that what happened in Tennessee is indicative of how good he is. I think that, Derek Carr's not going to move, so they're probably going to move Marcus Mariota. I think Gardner would be interesting. I would love to see Gardner Minshew become available, but I think that even though the Jags are taking Trevor Lawrence, Gardner is still a cheap enough option and becomes one of the best backup quarterbacks in the NFL that they might hold on to him. Sam Darnold is somebody that I would take a chance on because if the price is right. Because if you think about what the Colts gave up for Carson Wentz, that price has to be cheaper for Sam Darnold because Carson Wentz at least played at an MVP level at some point. And I think that if you could get if you could move a conditional third day pick, a 4th round pick for Sam Darnold, which is the realistic, because if the Jets don't draft a quarterback, this is one of the things too, is we get to wait it out. Like if the Jets draft a quarterback, that price comes down. But if they do, if they keep him, who knows? Who knows what he's going to be thinking anyways. So I think that you go a veteran option like that, because otherwise you're taking a chance. Or, who knows? If one of the quarterbacks falls, Trey Lance, Mac Jones, maybe even Justin Fields, maybe he falls. Like I know, like I've seen everywhere from Justin Fields could go 2nd overall. He could fall to the 2nd round. So I would take a stab at one of those free agent quarterbacks if possible. If not, let's see if we can get lucky to see if one of those quarterbacks falls in the draft.
You bring up these rookie quarterbacks coming in the draft. We all know Trevor Lawrence is number 1, but who do you got for like 2, 3, and 4 personally?
Well, I do like the BYU quarterback. I think he's got a lot of skills. I think Justin Fields is a pretty good quarterback. I think that he probably ends up being the guy who is the second one off the board. So I think that he is going to, if he doesn't go second, he's going to go very soon. I think that there's a lot of teams in play for him too. I know if you look at the Carolina Panthers, they're expected to move on from Teddy Bridgewater. So if they stay put at number 8, they could be somebody who picks him, or they could try to move ahead. Like Washington could figure to be in the mix as well for a quarterback. They're obviously drafting at number 19, which is always weird to me. Like, why do they, like, Washington got to host a playoff game. Why are they picking in front of the Bears? Like, you're the division winner, pick behind us. Like, what? That doesn't make any sense. Now, I don't like it. It stinks. But I think and I think Trey Lance is pretty good. I know that people always are going to, like, everybody loves to make the connection with schools, and they're like, oh, look at Carson Wentz. I don't know if I want Trey Lance now. And it's like, oh, it's garbage. But I think these guys are pretty good. So I think it goes, so Fields is 2. I would put Wilson at 3. I would put Trey Lance over was it Mac Jones? So that's probably my top 5. Although I haven't fully dove into it yet, but that's currently my top 5 in the clubhouse.
And then I guess with your fantasy expertise, who's going to be the best fantasy rookie quarterback next year?
Well, I do believe that Trevor Lawrence has a great opportunity because he's probably going to start from day one. And that's going to be the number one thing, kind of hoping that he would have a season similar to Justin Herbert this year. I think that he's probably, more athletic than people are giving him credit for. I don't think he's going to go out there and run like Josh Allen or somebody like that, but still give you enough rushing ability to go out there and do pretty well. I think Joe Burrow was good. So if he gets to that Justin Herbert, Joe Burrow level, he will be pretty good. And of course, if Justin Fields comes in and starts day one for a team like Washington, I think he could also be pretty good too. But I think it's probably easier just to go chalk here and take Trevor Lawrence.
Well, you brought up the Bears, right? And Allen Robinson. He's our wide receiver 1. Everybody's eyes on him. He's a savior for us right now. Mr. Trubisky tried to play his hand with him. Mr. Trubisky's been quite the Cinderella story, up and down. We've on the show experienced many heartbreaks. Sometimes we're all for him. He's on a win streak. The start of the season, I think that was something which none of us ever expected in 100 years. So that was quite the story. But Allen Robinson is up, for grabs. He was our wide receiver 1. We want to hear your thoughts. Do you think he has a future with the Bears, or is he going to be gone?
Well, I mean, he should. That's the problem. Is like he should. I don't like the idea of getting rid of him, and I don't know what the holdup was of not extending him long term last year when all these players were getting extended. And I know they started pointing to the possibility of the salary cap or anything and stuff like that. But you found a stud with Allen Robinson. I don't want to walk away from a player like that. And it almost got to the point at the end of the season, every time Darnell Mooney was playing well, you're like, damn it, this is going to give them more motivation to let Allen Robinson walk out the door, which is wrong. Like, you should want both of these guys. Like, you should have 2 good wide receivers. I want to be that team. I remember when Brandon Marshall and Alshon Jeffrey were playing together. What a luxury that was. So if you have Allen Robinson and Darnell Mooney, you should want to enhance that. Like, you would want to move forward with it. I think that the guy that you could probably move on from is Anthony Miller, who's talented, but he does things that just baffle me. It's so frustrating. And it happened. It wasn't, obviously he took a swing at the Saints guy that enrages everybody. But even the previous year when they were playing out here in Los Angeles at the Coliseum, and he's running his mouth in a primetime game when we're getting smoked, and you're like, bro, what are you doing? Like, stop it. Like, don't, like, why are you this way? Like, we're losing. Like, stop it. So if there was a receiver I would want to get rid of, because I think that if you're walking into the next season and your 2 starting wideouts are Anthony Miller and Darnell Mooney, you're doing yourself a disservice. They got to do whatever. I know it sucks to franchise tag these guys, but they need to at least franchise tag Allen Robinson and in good faith try to extend him.
For sure. Well, we've talked a bunch about the Bears already, and the Bears are an organization which sometimes we got the pieces. The quarterback position is always that one thing which we're missing out on. We've had our fair share of experiences. Hopefully this season, whoever's at that position, what if it's even Mitch? It brings us some clarity at least. But now let's move on towards one of our teams, our boy Abi. You want to talk about?
Yeah, so Adam, like already mentioned earlier, I'm actually not a Bears fan. I'm a Seattle Seahawks fan. And I was wondering, this whole talk about the Russell Wilson QB situation right now, I'm really curious, like, what do you think is going to happen with Russell Wilson? Obviously, his whole O-line, him kind of like saying he takes so many hits. And, like the hiring of the new offensive coordinator. Just curious about thoughts about that.
Yeah, it's very cute that he thinks that there's a possibility he could get moved. I think the only way that Russell Wilson could be traded is if they traded him to Houston straight up for Deshaun Watson. Like, that would be the only thing where I think it would be commiserate where, okay, both teams are getting good quarterbacks. Still, that seems like an outside, like that's a long shot. That's just, but for fantasy dorks, we could see that happening. I think in realistic football, probably not going to happen. And you know what? It's up to the Seahawks to fix that situation because they don't have a first round pick this year because of the Jamal Adams trade. And now you got to find a way you have to address the running back position. Now, Rashad Penny could come in and eventually be that guy, but they got to fix the offensive line. Like, they're one of those teams. I know Orlando Brown is one of those players who's rumored to be on the move, he wants to go out and he wants to play left tackle. I don't know if Seattle has the ammunition to go out there and make that deal, but they do need to do something like that because the offensive, like Russell Wilson is getting hit way too much, but I thought that they had something last year. Like, I know that Pete Carroll, and this goes back to his time at USC, and I remember, I worked for the Times and the Register and all that stuff. So I remember Pete Carroll, the college coach, he loves to run the football. And that's one of the things that he wants to do in Seattle. But Russell was so good throwing, just let Russell throw, do what the Bills do. Just have Russell Wilson throw it 70 times a game. Just let him get rid of the ball quicker. Because Russell Wilson is so great at the deep ball. Nobody throws a better deep ball than he does. And he gets enamored with it sometimes, quick pass. Find a way to get the ball into the hands of DK Metcalf and let him go. And so I think that Seattle's going to be just fine. It will be interesting with that division, though, because it's getting better. And I think the Rams, if the Rams aren't the best team in the NFC right now, they're right behind the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. But I think that Matt Stafford thing is crazy. But by the way, that also should give you a little insight, too, of the possibility of Deshaun Watson being traded, or even Russell Wilson, if you think about it. Because, the Rams were obviously in the market for a quarterback, and I'm not saying they settled for Matthew Stafford, but I think if you were talking about quarterbacks you would rather have, Deshaun Watson, Russell Wilson are two guys that I would want above him, right? I don't think I'm telling tales out of school. I'm not saying anything weird, right? Stafford's fine. It's fine. But it's not the best. You know what I'm saying? But it's it's good. Whatever. So I think that, again, I don't even know what my point was. Oh, that division's getting better for Seattle. So they got to figure it out quick because that window closes. And I as long as you have the quarterback, you're always going to be in contention, but they need to go out. They need to go all out like the Rams do. Wouldn't it be fun to be a fan of the Rams, knowing that every year your team's doing whatever it takes to get to the Super Bowl? They don't even care. Look at Green Bay. Green Bay plays it so safe. They're just happy to be there. They're happy to make the playoffs. Win or lose the Super Bowl, it doesn't matter. We're going to go 10-6 every year and be in contention. You're just never going to have one of those great teams. And Tampa Bay did it this year. I mean, when Tom Brady signed with the Buccaneers, they could have been very, very well been listen, you got Cameron Brate, you got Godwin, you got Evans, you got enough to win. You got Ron Jones. You got enough to win. But they went out and they got playoff Lenny. They got Gronk. They got AB. Brought in that headache just to go out there and win the Super Bowl. So I think some of these teams like Seattle, like Green Bay, you got to go for it. Do you want to win? Is that what you want? If you don't want to win, that's fine. That's cool. You want to be with the guy at the bar who's not talking to the girls and you just want to sit there with your buddies and hang out, sip your IPA and do that, that's fine. But if you want to go for it, you want to be a winner, then go out and try to win. Well, are you guys even drinking age? I shouldn't even be making those announcements. I apologize. I just realized. Look at who, know your audience, Rank. I'm so sorry. But you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, the reference for sure. Although just a tad shy of that age, but yeah, not yet.
Dang it. Now look at me pushing drinking on these kids. That's going to be the headline. I'm so sorry.
Chicago Tribune tomorrow.
Damn it.
All good. But, so for sure, Seahawks, it's been a love-and-hate relationship. We give a lot of smack for supporting the Seahawks from Chicago, but
how are you? Yeah, give me the backstory of how you became a Seahawks fan.
Yeah, so all these guys, right? As Ron said, they give me a lot of hate for if he's a bandwagon fan, okay? They say after the Seahawks won the Super Bowl against the Broncos, I became a fan. But I've been telling this narrative this whole time. Every time they ask me this, I started becoming a Seahawks fan Russell Wilson's rookie year. Actually, it was mid-season. That's when I first started following the Seahawks. It's not the first time I started watching football. Actually, I followed the Bears too. I just never really liked them. So when Russell Wilson got drafted in 2012 rookie year, that's when I started following him. And then I guess ever since then, I've just been following the Seahawks. So
That's fair. He went to Wisconsin. You had some familiarity. Like, it's all good.
Yep.
It's the I knew it was the quarterback. I knew it was Russell Wilson. And you know what? As a Bears fan, you're better off. Just, I should have let my kids just pick whatever quarterback that they like and follow him for the rest of their lives. But it's like, nope, here are your Cutler jerseys, and let's go. They're too young to even know that Cutler sucked. But no, he didn't. He was amazing. But my kids are 5 and 2.
Of my own.
My kids are 5 and 2. They know no better, but they love just throwing on that jersey. And I'm like, I'm really a bad parent. Like, I shouldn't be doing this.
Well, it brings back some memories. And, I guess you could argue that those memories were somewhat better than the Mr. Risky times if you're going to go there. But it's what could have been, I guess. You got to look forward towards the future now. As a Bears fan, I guess the pain will stay. And for the Seahawks, if they get an O-line, I guess they're the real deal, right?
Yeah, I think the best thing for you would be if the Seahawks just traded Wilson to the Bears. Like, let's go. Let's make it happen.
We could all be Bears fans right now.
Yeah, see? I would welcome you aboard.
Well,
actually, you know what? You wouldn't be allowed. You'd have to root for a team with a bad quarterback for a number of years before you would be allowed to join us.
Maybe if that happened, then I would be stuck with Geno Smith on the Seahawks.
No.
Experience with that.
Yeah. That would be one of the best Bears quarterbacks of the last 5 years, Geno.
Well, I think we can all get behind that idea. If the Bears start going up, we're going to make sure that we give a his fair share. That's all fun and games. So, Adam, it's been going on for a bit, and just to wrap things up, we talked a bunch about the NFL season. We want to get some of your thoughts in a fast manner, something we want to do, something new, called some quick
rapid fire, my favorite.
Questions. You got a minute or two to explain what your thoughts are behind the question, and we'll see where it goes from there. So first things first, the question is going to be Tom Brady. 7 rings. It's crazy. 7 rings on his hand now. 10 Super Bowl appearances. The man, 42, 43 years old, still balling the way he is. Does he have, in the back of his mind now, am I getting 2 full hands of rings?
Oh, I'm sure that's what he's aiming for, but I don't know if he's going to be able to get it. He might end up finishing with 7 because we haven't seen a team be able to repeat as Super Bowl champions since Tom Brady in the early 2000s. We saw the St. Louis football team fall short, of course, of the Tom Brady-led New England Patriots. The Seahawks, sorry, didn't mean to bring that up. Didn't mean to bring up old stuff. And also the Chiefs. Like the Chiefs, it was a fait accompli. I thought that they were going to go out there and buck the trend and repeat as Super Bowl champions. So it might be very difficult for the Buccaneers to do that, although we do see them willing to reload and go after it one more time.
Well, if they can bring back Rob Gronkowski and make those contracts work, it'll be special to see.
Next question. I know, obviously, this is way too early to tell, and there's so many changes to be made for all NFL teams. But if you had to pick on one team this year, right now, who do you think is your early favorite for Super Bowl champs?
You know what? I was thinking about this the other day. I would say the Buffalo Bills, but their fans have been mean to me on Twitter today. So I'm going to change that's how petty I am. You know what, though? I really like the idea of the Rams winning the Super Bowl, Sean McVay finally breaking through, and for Matthew Stafford to get an opportunity to go deep into the playoffs, get a chance to play in that Super Bowl. It would be pretty fun to see. I think listen, we're Bears fans. I like Matt Stafford. Like, I have nothing bad to say about him. Maybe it's because Detroit's been bad for so long. I have a lot of respect for Matthew Stafford. So if it's not the Bears, if Matthew Stafford or the Rams went out to win the Super Bowl, I wouldn't be too upset about it.
All right.
Speaking of championships, obviously next year you're going to be starting your campaign for your fantasy football leagues. If you had the number 1 pick, who are you taking?
I'm going to go back to CMC. I think it goes back to the conversation we were having. He's still an automatic player who's still going to put up 20 to 25 points every time he steps on the field. I don't think that these are nagging injuries or anything like that. So I'm very comfortable going back to CMC. I do think there should be a lot of love for Jonathan Taylor as well. He finished so great last year. That offensive line is on fire. Carson Wentz is going to be good. I think again, draft for 2021, look for Jonathan Taylor as well.
Staying on the topic of fantasy, do you have any sleeper picks, players who you think have a lot of potential and a lot of people overlook for the draft?
You know what? I'm going to say with one of our, let's do a homer pick. I really do believe that Cole Kmet is going to end up breaking out this season. I think that being a tight end is one of the toughest transitions in the NFL. And it's very rare that rookie tight ends come out and make an immediate impact. But I thought Cole Schultz showed some flashes. And I'm not going to predict that he's going to have a George Kittle-like breakout, but I think he could end up being like a poor man's version of George Kittle in this league. And so, of course, I always advocate drafting Travis Kelce as early as possible. But if I'm out there having to pull darts or throw darts at tight ends later in drafts, Cole Kmet is definitely somebody I'm going to be targeting.
Well, for sure. We can hope that Cole Kmet gets that going. We all have a lot of hope in him. But now let's shift towards some Chicago Bears questions. The first one being our quarterback next year. The situation's a mess, but who do we got? Who's actually starting QB?
Oh my gosh. You know what? I think that they end up finding a way to bring Marcus Mariota aboard. You know what? They have a history of trading with the Raiders, and they brought in Khalil Mack, and it worked out pretty well. I'm going to go with Marcus Mariota. That's more of a wish more than an actual, like, I have inside knowledge of this. But I think I'm going to go Marcus Mariota and see what happens.
Alrighty, and for this final question, Mr. Adam Rank, we got to bring up the thing you do best, making predictions. What is going to be the Chicago Bears' final record for next year?
You know what? If we get the right quarterback and we don't have to give up that first-round pick and we end up taking an offensive lineman, I think the guy from USC is pretty – listen, I'm working on the lineman right now. I really do believe that this team could win 10 games next year. Funny enough, I saw this the other day, is that there was no team in the NFL that finished 9-7 last year, which is crazy. It's just crazy to think about, especially in a parity-driven league. I think that when you look at Matt Nagy, everybody has their reservations about him or their comments about him. He's never finished worse than 8-8. I think that the change at defensive coordinator is going to get them back to what they did a couple of years ago. I think we're going to see the best out of Eddie Jackson. I think our cornerback tandems could be one of the best in the league because Jalen Johnson is he's going to be a great player. And I think offensively, if you get the right quarterback, you get a little bit of reinforcements on the offensive line. Rely a little bit more on David Montgomery, who's an absolute stud. To me, this is a 10-win team. Besides, like that division, the Lions with Dan Camp, no. The Vikings, Like the Vikings were lucky to get one win against us last year. That's not happening again. So I say 10 wins. I know that everybody looks at the schedule, like, oh, it's the toughest. Like the NFL changes so much year to year. You cannot look at somebody's schedule and say they've got the toughest schedule because we don't know what these teams are going to look like. And I just know that the Bears have a lot of talent on defense. If they improve offensively, they can improve by 2 games over their record last season.
Well, if that happens, we're all for it. So with all of that being said, Adam Rank, thank you for coming to the show. Buzzer2Buzzer, truly a dream come true. We had a lot of fun talking to you about the NFL fantasy coming up, and we'd absolutely love to have you, your co-host for the NFL Network. You do the work you do. It's awesome to see. Have you back on the show. Talk more as the season starts to get more developments come through. As you do more research, it was a blast. Hopefully you had a good time too. And I think the future is bright for the NFL, and we hope that you come back on for us too.
Hey, thanks so much. I appreciate you guys reaching out. Appreciate you having me on the show. Schaumburg represent. Let's do it again real soon. Let's reconvene after the draft, and then we will go into great detail while this Bears team is once again going to make the playoffs.
Yes, sir. That's what we like to hear. Thank you so much.
Thank you, guys.
All right, guys. Well, that concludes our time, which we had with Adam Rank being on the Buzzer2Buzzer Talk Show. We look forward to having him on again. But, guys, as always, be sure to hit that like button, subscribe, and show us some love in the comments below. Go show him some love to Adam Rank on Twitter as well. It was a heck of an episode. Hopefully, you guys had a good time watching. Let's do more of these. Catch you guys on the next one. See you guys.